And it's a very interesting book. I haven't fully studied that book, but I remember skimming through it. Really nice book. So I'm here in a place in Kerala. It's an Ayurveda ashram. Ashram means everything is very, I won't say rustic, but it's simple. And the place is a panchakarma centric place. They do yoga healing and panchakarma healing. Just wanted to spend some time rejuvenating the body, whatever way it can. It's a very interesting place. So I have a lot of time to myself, stuck in my room because they won't let you get out of the property. You're literally, you have to be in campus. And very interesting concept. So I get a lot of time to meditate, to read and chant, and to write. So I've been thinking about this human species, why there is so many diverse paths that we all take. And even children from same parents that take such diverse paths, and just people in general are in going all different directions. Why is that happening, and how is that happening? How is this process starting to take shape? And in this meditation, I get to observe a lot. It's right next to the airport, so the airplane flies really low. I'm not sure if you can hear the airplane, but all night long, you can hear the airplanes go right above the building. It's really loud. So it's very interesting test of see if you can sleep at night with sounds. But I get to think a lot. I get to meditate a lot. I get to do contemplate a lot. So this question I've been asking myself, how is our identity being shaped? And who is shaping our identities? Why are we so different? And this brings me to this deep spiritual principle that our identity is shaped by what we hear. It's insane. And just think about it. The years that we have, if you look carefully, it looks like a mother's womb, the baby upside down. It's very beautiful when you just look at it, the physical shape of the ear. But the Vedic texts, they emphasize the principle, the art of hearing, to such an extent. And they go to the point that your salvation, your enlightenment comes through this. Everything you accomplish in the material world is through this, and not through seeing, not through tasting, touch, or other sensory perceptions. It is the most powerful sense that we have. So I was talking with Radha briefly on a text message. Sometimes we have dialogues on text messages. And I was sharing with her that it is extremely important for her to read, to chant. What was the third thing? To read, chant, and hear.
It was pray.
Pray, pray, pray. And I told her to read loudly. And I was thinking at first, why am I even telling her this? And I remember when I told her this, because it just came to me, and I said this to her. And then and I was thinking, the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the greatest Puranas of the 18 Puranas, is considered to be the Amala Purana, the most untainted, the most pure, the most divine of the 18 yoga texts. And there we get to hear this incredible story of this young boy. His name is Prahlad. Puranas are presented in beautiful story forms, and they give deep, deep moral and spiritual teachings for us to assimilate. You know the term assimilate? I didn't know. I had to look it up. What does assimilate mean, Radha?
I think of it as like digesting information.
Yeah, it's actually taking it in.
Mm.
And I love that word. I didn't know that that's what it means, not to assemble. Assimilate means to take it in. And it was so beautiful because I was thinking about this beautiful story in the Purana about Prahlad, this prince, who was born to one of the most powerful evil kings of his time. So powerful that he was almost immortal. Almost. There was nobody in the world that could actually kill this person. Nobody was created by the Creator to take this person out. That's how powerful he was. But the unfortunate fact was he was an evil king. And his son, who was Prahlad, he was the opposite. He was a child who was just born with all those divine inclinations. His heart was already filled with deep love for God. And so, how did he get there? What happened was that this Prahlad, when he was in his mother's womb, his mother's his mother was given shelter to by a sage. And that sage was Sage Narada. And by the way, Haripriya, maybe you can message Narada. I don't see him with us. Or Devi. So this Narada was actually spending time with Prahlad's mother, sheltering her in his cottage from people that wanted to harm her because her husband was an evil king. So while she was being sheltered in his cottage, then he every single day spent time reading together and studying this great Purana called the Bhagavad Purana. And he becomes completely inundated by the beautiful narration of incredible pastimes of God. And he starts to fully understand because children, when they're in their mother's womb, from the age of 5, they can hear everything. 5 months, not age of 5. 5 months in the womb, they can hear everything. So from 5 months of age, Prahlad was hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing pastimes, hearing all this fascinating yoga texts. From who? The greatest source, the greatest enlightened teacher, the most devout spiritual being, Narada. And so his heart and his mind and his intellect was filled from 5 months of age. And when he comes out into this world, you cannot reprogram his samskaras, the impressions that he's been acquiring while in mother's womb. because those were the first words that he has heard. You'll be fascinated to hear that one of the samskaras, one of the rituals that we do in the yoga lineage is when a child is born, or even while the child is in the womb, the father is supposed to whisper beautiful things to the child. The mother is supposed to continuously feed the child with powerful sound vibrations of positivity, and mantras and kirtans and Srimad Bhagavatam readings is part of the purificatory process, because then their consciousness becomes completely purified because they have had it since they're in the womb. So Prahlad Maharaj, this great prince, 5 years old, he remembers everything that his teacher had taught him while he was in the womb. And when he comes out, he still remembers everything. And what does he do when he's sent to kindergarten? The most elite private school that anyone could ever go to, he was sent to that school to become the best of the demons. And this Prahlad, he explains that everything I am in this world, it is simply because I have heard my teacher speak. Day in and day out, day in and day out. So think about it now. The yoga text was explaining that the reality that we can create, that we will have in life, is based on what you hear. Now, if you look at ourselves, when we are born into this world, what do the parents do? Oh, kuchi kuchi ku, you're so cute. And they start to give you an identity of being cute or being intelligent. All these identities that they perceive based on looking at you, not with the eyes, but with the affection. Then they start placing these identities, and those identities come in the form of sound vibrations. And those sound vibrations, when we hear it again and again and again and again, we start to believe it. And then as soon as we get a little older, someone tells us, "You're not cute." Like I was told by one of the students when I was growing up, because kids sometimes can be really cute and not so cute at the same time, told me I was the ugliest kid in the school. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I was the ugliest kid. Isn't there no one more uglier than me? And as a kid, I thought, yeah, maybe it's true. I'm the most ugliest kid. And what happens? We start to believe such things. The mother tells you one thing. As soon as you go to school, the school tells you something else. Your friends tell you something else. Society tells you something else. So we are so conflicted. And so therefore, life becomes very difficult. And so therefore, the sages are explaining that it is the most powerful sense that we have. Our reality is manifested based on what goes into our ears. Not what is in our mind, what goes in our ears. That is what we give birth to. And so sages are saying that if this is the reality, then what should you do? Shinvatam swakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana, that you must use this sensory faculty to hear positive things, spiritual things, divine things, things beyond the material world, things of transcendental in nature. So then what happens? Our natural seed in the heart we'll be connecting to something beyond matter, beyond the material, because that's what we listen to. And that is literally what satsanga is. Sangha means association. Satsang means to hear a higher vibration. And that is very clearly defined by by the sages. Tad vijnanartham sagurum eva vigachet. That explains that we must try to find and seek out association, find teachers and gurus that will actually provide us this higher frequency of spiritual sound vibration. And Shrotriya Brahmanishtam, that means we should submissively receive the information through our ears. Just like a child, when the child submissively and obediently listens to the parents, what happens? The child generally becomes more wise because they have the wisdom of the parents, the guidance of the parents. So every generation becomes more wiser and wiser and wiser. But is that what is happening in the world today? Unfortunately, maybe not, because technology is very instrumental in raising the kids today. So the whole transfer of that spiritual frequency from the heart to another heart is diminishing more and more and more. So how does this sound work? It explains in the Purana that Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye, that original transfer of spiritual knowledge was imparted to Brahma, into the heart of Brahma, through the ears into the heart of Brahma. So what happens when we listen with submissive and humble reception? Then it actually enters the heart. Then we can actually listen. Listening happens from the heart, but the hearing happens from the ears. So this important principle, the sages are recommending. And why is this so important for this sound frequency to enter the heart? Because that is where the reality manifests. Our reality in the world is not a creation of our mind, of our intelligence, but the true reality of the world is a creation of the heart. There is another beautiful verse. It explains dharma projita kaitava atra paramo niramat saranam sadam. But there is a beautiful line that I love the most. Sadyo hridyava rudyate atra kritivi shushushruvi takshana. That means that a humble seeker who is seeking to experience a divine connection, divine union with God in the heart, by submissive, humble oral reception, what happens? Sadhya, that means the seeker or the practitioner. Hridya means the heart. Avarudhyate, that the divine will never want to leave your heart. So the secret of capturing the all-powerful God, all-powerful divine force, this transcendental unconditional love in the heart, it is through hearing. That is the way to capture it. So this is what be here now means. Be here now. We can only be in the now when you are situated in the heart. Mind is never in the now. Mind is always in the past or always in the future. That is the very nature of the mind. And the intellect is always analyzing the past or the future. What will happen to me? What have I done with my life? I have wasted all these years. So be here now is literally here is what brings you to the now. So when we listen with the heart, from saintly people, from teachers, from gurus, from the wisdom texts. People may ask, I can hear all kinds of things. So just keep this in mind, right? When we hear something, what are we doing? We're going to give birth. We're going to give birth to our reality. Should we not pick and choose what that reality should be like? Should we not choose what person impregnates our mind and our hearts? Should we not choose what books we read? Should we not choose what people we associate with and what we listen to? So that is what creates our reality. And that is why the wisdom texts are saying, please be extremely careful what you hear, who you hear from, because anyone can hear from anywhere. But the source should be from someone who has taken a deep dive into the depths of Vedic wisdom. Because that dive literally means that he has gone deep into the ocean of spiritual emotion of the heart. And that is the source that we need to seek out. That is what we need to try to come close to. And in this way, we can always be here now by exercising this powerful principle of bhakti. And once you do this, the coolest part that I really like about this practice of bhakti is that bhakti or love has two children. And those two children is jnana and vairagya. Jnana means knowledge. Vairagya means detachment. So these two children, they always follow someone who is practicing bhakti. So if you have bhakti in the heart, if you have this pure love, that pure union with God in the heart, then naturally, these two children, you'll naturally have detachment. You will naturally have knowledge. When we say that you don't need a teacher, all the knowledge is within you. Yes, but how do you access it? It's a teacher who has to go into your heart and open up that vault of spiritual knowledge and realization. And that is why this process of hearing is such a big part. Every sage, every scholar of the Vedas have repeatedly emphasized, you must listen. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. You must listen and study the realization of the sages every single day. So this is my realization, that if you're looking for detachment, here. If you're looking for knowledge, here. If you're looking for love, here. If you want to have a beautiful life, here. If you want to create, give birth to the most amazing child, amazing reality in the world, here. So be selective. Do not let your mind and your intellect be impregnated by people, by information that you do not choose. So we have to be selective. Okay, this is my discussion, my rant for the week. And being here, it's almost like I'm in a COVID environment. we don't go out, and we're not allowed to go out, and we just have to be here. It gives you a lot of deep insights. I get to read a lot, and I read loud also, to do a lot of sadhana. Okay, we'll open it up for any reflections or any questions, or anybody wants to add, subtract, anything you would like. Devi Radhika, you have something you want to share?
No, that's okay, Prabhu. I'm just happy to be listening today. Thanks.
Okay, okay. Okay, Radha, you want to share anything?
I was just thinking, how interesting it is that this hearing is such an energy exchange, and that it's not really what you're hearing, what that's important, but also like the energy, the consciousness behind it, because you're absorbing that as well. And it's so interesting, the flip side of that too is that like we have to prepare our consciousness to be able to even take in a high vibration of consciousness so that we can even really benefit from it, in the way that like sometimes people will say like, oh, I have a bad picker. I have a bad picker. It's like, well, they're not pure enough to be able to discern, the source that they're intaking. And in that, we have to connect with these spiritual practices like chanting and reading, and so that we ourselves can prepare ourselves so that we can benefit and we can discern and we can choose, good teachers, and that, really walk the walk in our lives, and or walk the talk in our lives, and choose good partners and relationships, because that's really just as important, right? Is preparing ourselves so that our sensor is like tuned in to that frequency that it can intake properly, right?
Yeah, good point. Good point. I was thinking more to myself, like giving birth, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And we need to pick the right partner. So it's in spiritual life, we have to pick a spiritual partner. That means partner means the information that goes into our life, because that becomes our reality. So we have to be selective in hearing so that we don't have a lot of pollution that goes in. And unfortunate reality of the world is that the sound pollution is the biggest pollution in the world today. You turn on your little gadgets, your TVs, because you're unconsciously picking something, you just turn it on, and they're impregnating you with ideas of your reality. And it's so painful sometimes to see how gullible the human species can be. But the sages are saying, why not we do it consciously? Why not we at least think about all these things? Okay, Maggie has something she wants to share.
Yeah, I just have a question. So I really like this concept because I do spend a lot of time, if I'm working at my desk, listening to things in the background while I'm working, or if I'm driving, same kind of thing. So I guess my question is, how do we know in advance, if we're able to, whether it is something that is of a higher value to listen to, or coming from the sages, versus having to read through something first? So how would we know, like, how do we look at a book if we're looking at something, or if we're looking at a concept that a book is giving? How would we know without listening to it or reading it that it is something that is that is a good manifester, or giving birth to a higher thing, versus something that isn't?
Beautiful question. You know, when I struggle with choosing what should I read, what should I not read, I always ask my teachers. My teachers have invested so much time and energy. My whole life, I have listened to them and listened to them and listened to them and listened to them. Everything I am is because I have given my teachers my submissive attention and hearing. So I always ask for recommendations. Like, you know, I have someone asked me last time, what do you recommend we read? I said, you know, first read the Gita, read the dialogue between two friends and see what you think. And then when you finish, you know, let's talk. I want to hear your realizations and I want to see what you got out of it. And then, so what should I read now, Veda? And then I give them another recommendation and another recommendation. Radha Priti always buys books and says, hey, Veda, what do you think about this book? Should I read this one or that one? I said, read this one first, that one second, this one third. Because it helps to have a friend or a teacher or a guide or a mentor to help you to gradually progress uh, in your search to uh, find the deeper and deeper content for the heart, food for the heart. So my recommendation, Maggie, would be to ask your teachers. And I would love to recommend you books, but no one ever asks me, so I don't recommend.
Well,
But if
now you'll be hearing from me soon. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Okay, any other questions? Ramananda Prabhu.
Yes, Veda, Prabhu, you say the hearing is done through the ears and the listening is done through the heart. How does that
Yes, yes,
work?
yes, yes, yes. I had given a class on this one before, but briefly I'll touch on it. Hearing is a process, is an active choice you make. You have to engage the ears. So when people hear, there's multiple reasons people hear. For example, I want to listen to you because I want to correct you, could be one of the intentions. Or I want to hear you because I know more than you and I just want to see where you're at. And there could be so many reasons. Someone sometimes is to put someone down, is to correct someone, is to make themselves feel better about themselves because they know more. There could be so many reasons why we hear. But if you notice very carefully, when you sit in with the teacher and the teacher is sharing, when you give them that submissive hearing, it'll go deeper and deeper and deeper into your heart, and you'll be able to listen because it'll make sense to your life. It'll be real and practical because the realizations that those teachers share is, imagine my teachers, right? They've been practicing doing sadhana for 8-9 hours a day. I do sadhana not that long. And I've only been practicing this spiritual life for the last 42 years, nonstop. Only 42 years. So my realization may not be as deep as those that have been practicing for longer and more seriously, more vigorously. Right? So what happens is when they share their heart, it'll enter your heart. As I have repeatedly mentioned in the calls, that only a heart can speak to another heart. A mind cannot speak to the heart, and the intellect cannot speak to the heart. So therefore, when we hear and then we end up listening, and when you start sharing what you have heard, what you have listened, the people that are around you, they're also going to want to give you that full attention of hearing and listening to you. Because you are now just transferring what is in your heart. What has been what has been very, very carefully placed in your heart. You have now taken that and you have experienced it, and now you're sharing your heart. And this is how a disciplic succession happens. From a teacher to a student, from a guru to a disciple, to the next, to the next. This is how the chain of disciplic succession works. It is a transfer of heart vibrations. It is a transfer of heart realizations. It is a transfer of love from the heart in the form of spiritual information and realizations. So that is the difference, briefly. Anyone else would like to add anything? Any questions? Any other questions? Balaram, you're looking too serious. You want to share something?
Haribol, nice to see you all. I'm just enjoying listening and grateful for this class.
That's your reflection for the day? That's pretty good. Okay. Anyone else wants to share anything?
Prabhu, can I
Yes.
share a story with you that I saw on Chaitanya Charan's Instagram that just kind of stuck with me?
Yeah.
Can I share with you?
You
He
have
was
2
telling
minutes.
us, okay, he was telling a story about a conversation with Radhanath Swami, who's a really wise teacher that I think many of us know maybe. And he was asking him for some advice on presentation. And he said, Chaitanya Charan is like quite an intellect. And I think he gets some feedback that like maybe his classes are sometimes too intellectual for people. And so he was asking Radhanath Swami, like, what should I do about this? People are saying my classes are too intellectual and they're not connecting as much. And Radhanath Swami gave him some advice. He said something like, your nature is to be intellectual. So it's not something that you can just change, in the same way that Gaur Gopal's nature is to be funny. And it's not something, that's what he is. You can't be funny like Gaur Gopal, and Gaur Gopal can't be intellectual like you. He said, and then Radha Swami said, I'm not either one. I'm not intellectual or funny, but what I have is a deep concern for people. And in that, my people are affected by my presentations. He said, I would worry less about changing your nature, but increasing your concern for people in your presentation. And I just thought that was so profound, and it's so true too. Like when we converse with somebody, that's the first thing that we feel is that energy of their care for us. And then from that, we can really absorb what they're saying. But that element of concern for people, I don't know, when you just asked that question, Ramananda, about landing in the heart, hearing and then landing in the heart, I always think of that now. If I'm like preparing anything or doing anything, it's like, okay, how can I communicate my concern for people, number one? And then your nature will just come through. Anyway, I thought that was profound advice.
Thank you, Radha. Okay. Anyone else would like to share anything? Any other announcements? Nitai? Devi?
For me, may I add?
Yes, Carmen.
It's Carmen. I just wanted to say that what you've been sharing has been confirmation for me. So not necessarily a question, but in the way that you communicated sound pollution, it just really resonated with me because I've intentionally been like, turn the TVs off, even not even listening to music the way I used to listen to music before, and just being really intentional with what's impregnating my mind. And I just needed that confirmation because I've been doing it for years, somewhat with the question of like, is this right? Am I doing the right thing? And then going back to listening with the heart, it's always felt best because anytime, for example, the TV's on or just the messaging is not what's resonating with me, I get like a physical reaction, when I start hearing it and I know how it's affecting me. So again, just confirmation. So thank you for stating that today.
Well, you're a heart person. Anything doesn't cater to the heart, you're going to be irritated.
Just a little bit, yeah.
That's my observation.
You picked up on that very quickly, so yes.
Okay. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Carmen. Anyone, any last announcements or anything? I cannot see everybody, so if you have anything you want to share. Okay. Thank you, beautiful souls. And I'm so grateful to be with all of you. And I really look forward to seeing you again next week. So my connection to the world is to be with all of you. Namaste, beautiful souls.
Blessings, Veda G. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.